This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite.
Hey now, it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD by God Oliva. How you doing, JD?
I've had a week. You can't be in a bad mood listening to A Game. Just can't.
No.
Picks me up
always gets me up.
Thursday. Yeah, every Thursday. I hear that. Like I come in sometimes and it's been a long day, or like, got some stuff, and then I hear our good buddy Godzilla, and I'm like, you know what? It's a good day.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, hard to complain. It could be worse. We could be working for WWE. That would be terrible right about now. Hey, JD, you want to know why I'm wearing this shirt right here?
I would love. I think I know why, but I don't know why. So I want to hear you say why.
Well, because Slim Jim is the company that finally took down Vince McMahon. So thus Macho Man gets revenge from the grave. So kudos to, I'm giving all the credit to the Macho Man Randy Savage for finally taking one Vince McMahon down, because I don't think that motherfucker steps down unless the sponsors start calling.
No.
At least not as fast. At least not as fast as he did. Not as fast as he did. He probably would have eventually, but the Slim Jim got us there quicker.
Would he? Because I think everyone that works there is completely spineless and has no moral compass whatsoever, and are just awful human beings. So I think you're right. I think that without Slim Jim making a choice and saying we don't want to be involved with this gross bullshit anymore, I think nothing happens. Of course, they jump right back on board when Vince left, but everyone who enabled him and covered his ass and did whatever he wanted is still there working for the company. So, not a truly big stand, but whatever. It got the first monster out. Now you got to do the Nuremberg trials, right? Now you got to get all the people who are just following orders and get them out. Start with the guy with the big nose.
Yeah, you got to root out all of the evil, all of the corruption. And we're going to get into a little bit of that. And I think that's exactly what this case is aiming to do. Although I have a theory of how it's going to end. And just because the way I see things play out in different related circumstances, how this always ends up, unfortunately. But we will get there. But man, earlier today, this was after I'd already had like our notes ready to go. I had our thumbnail out. I had everything. I thought we had like a full show, and then all of a sudden, Tim Marchman from Vice Media, he actually contacted John Laurinaitis, Johnny Ace himself. John Laurinaitis' lawyer. He is and Johnny Ace's lawyer claimed to Tim Marchman of Vice Media that he's a victim of Vince too. So we've got a little bit of a twist here. So he's not only is Johnny Ace corroborating everything that Vince is being accused of, he's saying he is not an abuser. He is actually another party that's been abused by Vince McMahon. And I'll go ahead and read some headlines from the story. It said a co-defendant in an explosive civil sex trafficking lawsuit brought last week against WWE founder Vince McMahon and WWE itself. So there isn't just one entity on trial here. It's Vince McMahon and WWE. So let's not forget about that. Appeared to corroborate central claims in the suit in a statement to Vice News today, while disputing Laurinaitis' role as described in the complaint. Edward Brennan, the lawyer, said that his client is himself a victim, just like plaintiff Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee. Now, last week I did not want to say her name, but her name is everywhere, so it's like unavoidable at this point. So we're just gonna say it, okay? I did not want to, but it's out there, and it's being put out there by her lawyer, who's doing a lot of TV. So this is where we're at now. The story goes on to say Mr. Laurinaitis denies the allegations in the misguided complaint and will be vigorously defending these charges in court, not the media. Like the plaintiff, Mr. Laurinaitis is a victim in this case, not a predator. The truth will come out. He goes on to say, read the allegations, read the federal statute, power, control, employment, supervisory capacity, dictatorial sexual demands with repercussions if not met. Count how many times in the complaint Vince exerts control over the both of them. That is a bombshell, dude. That is a bombshell. It's wild.
Yeah, this is a lot. First, there's a lot going on in that. First of all, I'm gonna say Miss Grant is being remarkably brave by stepping front
Yes.
and owning up to, like, not owning up is the wrong term, because making it sound like she did something
Yeah.
wrong, but I mean, like, standing out and saying, I'm fighting, I'm the one who's doing this, I was treated bad, and putting her name and putting her face along with that, and being um poster child is another bad term, but I can't think of a better one, like being the face
She's
of
yes.
this fight, you know? So that takes a lot of guts, and I give her a lot of credit for that, because you can't fault the victim for not wanting to go public, but the fact that she is willing to, it says a lot about her character. That's something. So it's interesting what old Johnny Ace has to say, Motoko Baba's favorite wrestler. It sure sounds like he's saying that he also would have lost his job and standing in the company if he did not go in with Vince on this stuff. And that is I kind of get why the lawyers saying that. That is wild.
Yeah.
I kind of get why the lawyers saying that, because you could talk your way into seeing, like, okay, you know, like, okay, I can kind of get where they're coming from on this. I don't. Boy, these are such a sticky topic, but I mean, like, from a legal perspective, I understand why his lawyer is saying that. I know we had a buddy who's like, I think he's just trying to get more money out of WWE, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know, man. I think we're beyond the pale of that, like, because we're knocking on the door of criminal stuff at this point, and he's liable. I mean, because with what Miss Grant said, he is liable for criminal charges, so he is distancing himself and standing on the opposite side of the former law firm of Jerry McDivitt, which is gutsy in and of itself. So I mean, like, I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm glad you brought up the criminal charges, because this is being tried in civil court first, that I think that it can be brought to criminal trial. Now, if it's the other way, or like other way around, like, you can't try the same crime twice unless there's like new evidence and things like that, obviously. But and the burden of proof is much smaller in a civil trial, but if you have some there, they can then be tried in a criminal case, and then the burden of proof is much higher. And so this whole thing, what the craziest part about it to me is that Johnny Ace is corroborating the story. He's just saying that his part in the whole thing is different, that he was being victimized too, that he was kind of being forced into these situations. And I honestly never in a million years would have even thought that. I was like, I was thinking, and and look, honestly, who knows what the real truth is here? And I think hopefully we get to the bottom of it. So I'm not going to say that what Johnny Ace is saying is true. I just think it's kind of crazy that he's corroborating the story. He's going against Vince, which is something that I never thought he would do, because he's been quiet this whole time. Like, he hadn't said anything. And here his lawyer is making a statement to Vice Media, and that they're going to be in on it and essentially testifying against Vince.
We don't hear a lot of stories about men suffering from sexual assault or rape or those kind of things. Like, it just isn't something, but it does happen. It does.
I can tell you in my position right now at work, being, kind of I'm not a first sergeant, but I'm kind of operating in that capacity, and you hear stories, and it happens more than people know, more than people will even think about. Because I'll be honest, because meathead dudes typically don't talk about it. Right.
Correct.
And so, like, that goes, like, I know on the female side, it goes very, very, very underreported. It's wild, but that's where you mostly hear of it. But with the men, we just don't talk about stuff like that. It's a crazy culture. And so for this to come out now, I'm like, it's just truly, it just threw another wrench into this whole case. That I get the feeling is going to get a lot of play on a lot of the like Ashley Banfield and on News Nation is kind of like all over. Like, she runs those types of shows, like crime stories and salacious stories, and it's going to get a lot of play on shows like that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially in tough macho world, like, you don't hear stories about, it's guys like Vince, right? And like, if your boss, I'm not saying Johnny Ace is innocent. No. I'm not, because we don't know. Like, I'm not saying that, but I understand why he's saying this. because there are situations where men are pressured into these type of things unwillingly a lot of the time, and just because the parts work doesn't mean that, those are just chemical reactions, man. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean you want to, like, it's there's a lot. I don't know, man. I just
Yeah.
it's gonna be this is really bad for WWE that they're tied into this. It's really
Yeah.
bad for Vince McMahon, but it's good that someone is finally fighting him, right?
Yeah.
After 30 years of him skating by and just getting away with doing whatever he wanted. It's nice to see that justice maybe won't be done necessarily, but that like someone is making people take a real look at this and shining a light on a guy that people in our business knew what he was about all along. Even though the Jimmy Vans of the world will tell you how great Vince was and how much they appreciate Vince. And thank you, Vince. Thank you, Vince, because I'm a rich dumb fuck who owns a big business and I have no spine. Thank you, Vince. I
Yeah.
have zero respect for Fightful because of that guy. Zero. I'll say it. I don't fucking care. I'll never work for them. Fuck them.
Yeah, dude. People are bringing up those Jimmy Van tweets. I'm just like, the timing, bro. Like,
He knew.
God,
Everyone knew.
Yeah, he knew.
Everyone knew.
Yeah.
Everyone knew. And the fact that you have the audacity to say that because you're a dumb rich guy, fuck him. Fuck the whole company,
Yeah.
man. I don't care.
Yeah, even so, look, we didn't know these details that we're reporting now, right? That's coming out now, but we have 40 years of history of allegations and accusations and everything. And so when when Vince went down originally 2 years ago, there were people like this Jimmy Van guy and several others that were like taking to their social media, thanking him for his service, despite the fact. I'll be honest, and like AEW is going to catch a little bit of a stray here. Not completely AEW's fault, but their the chief operations officer that they just hired was also one of those people, right? Like, so there's a ton of people out there, like when we've said, on in every promotion that was kind of going out there thanking this guy for his service, despite the fact that there was allegations that he denied. But now that these details are coming out and are like, most people are just quiet because these details are just so way out there and just like super bizarre. And I never, I'll be honest, JD, whenever the story first hit in 2022, my thing is that it was like, I could go either way on whether or not that was consensual. I was like, it's probably not. We kind of know who this guy is, but the denials were there. And it's like, you have to take those into account a little bit. So I was like, I was not 100%, right? Now I'm like, I'm obviously I'm no judge and jury. I don't operate in that capacity. I don't have like everybody's side of the story, but gun to my head, this story is true. And the fact that Johnny Ace is corroborating it, I'm like, this story is absolutely true. And it is disgusting. You know who surprised me today? Commenting on the story. I'm not gonna give the guy flowers because I'm not gonna do that. But Eric Bischoff, believe it or not,
yeah, I heard that
on his show. Somebody's like, dude, did you hear what Eric said about it? I was like, no. And I figured Eric would go on there and kind of do his typical bullshit, carry Vince's water. He was like, no, this is the most evil thing I've ever heard. And we need to scrub him from the history books like we did Chris Benoit. Essentially, he's our Harvey Weinstein, just like I was saying last week. I was like, wow. And so that's like another reason that makes me think that this is a completely valid story, because who is Eric Bischoff's co-host in that show? Conrad. Who's Conrad's best friend?
Ric Flair.
Bruce Pritchard.
Bruce Pritchard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pritchard, who is currently an executive in WWE. Right. So they were completely shocked and surprised by the details. And I think that's where kind of most people were at. Like, they knew this guy was a scumbag, but they didn't know he was this bad. You know what I mean?
So I think that I can almost, when you work, I mean, like when you get to know somebody, right? I had a friend, I'll tell you a story. I had a friend in college who was suspect with a lot of things, but when it came to girls, and he got arrested for rape and stood trial and was found innocent. But when it happened, we all kind of went, oh, okay. Like it was kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, like I heard the story, it was like, okay, I believe my friend's story. But I mean, like at the same time, there's party, it's like, but I was willing to believe my friend because he was my friend. It's like when people are in our lives, we see the good of them. And sometimes it's easier to overlook the mistakes that they made because we know them personally, right? And like we don't, it's harder to see the negative, right? When you
Yeah.
see someone's brightness every day, but it's there, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm not as hard on people that were in the inner circle, because our, we had good, our, Black Mask will, pour out one for the Black Mask. May his account rest in peace. But I mean, like,
Yeah.
he would say, you don't know him like I do. You don't know him like I do. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, he's not this kind of guy. He's not this kind of guy. And this is a dude that worked there forever and would swear up and down Vince is not this monster. But it's easier to hide in front of people that you know, right?
Yeah.
And when you could take like an analytical look at somebody, it's easier to say that guy's a piece of shit. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
harder on people like Jimmy Van who pretend to have a media outlet that should know better. Like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But I can accept someone that worked for him that might have had the wool pulled underneath him, because when you know somebody, you want to believe the best in them, even if you're wrong.
Yeah. And I've encountered that situation a lot of times. And it's burned me sometimes, to be honest with you. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'm going to learn my lesson there, but I only learned my lesson with that person. Because I still get, people get close to me and then I still just assume the best in them. And when they're in a tough spot, I go and I try to take care of them. And then sometimes it turns out they're guilty. Sometimes they're innocent. But I just try to, just be there for people as much as I can. But like once it's out and like, okay, you did this shit, like we're done, dude. Like that's where I draw the line.
Right.
But so
and that's the thing. We talked about the scorpion and the frog analogy last week, and I mentioned my friend, and my friend stood trial court of law, was proven innocent. But I mean, like, I like when the accusations come out, you're like, okay, all right, what happened? But you want to believe your friend, and it even becomes hard. Like, you have to, when it's someone that you have to go into every situation open-minded and willing to listen. You can't just say no, or yes. You have to listen. And in this case with Vince McMahon, I didn't read the full details until I read the Observer last week. And man, it was worse than I imagined. It really was. Like, just the offhanded stuff that I read about from the part of the journal that we were allowed to read. I ain't paying for the Wall Street Journal. Like, the whole thing with Dave Recap is just horrific, man. Horrific.
Yeah. And guys, I know you want to have fun this week, and JD, we're going to have some fun this week. I got to get through the rest of this story and then we'll go on to some fun shit. So I just want to get this stuff out of the way. So Janelle Grant's lawyer is coming for WWE. That was my top story, actually. It got pushed down because this Johnny Ace stuff came out. Ann Callis, that's the lawyer, told News Nation, I think it was Ashley Banfield she was on, that the culture of corruption has permeated every cell of WWE, and claims many people have come forward to corroborate these claims, including other possible victims. So last week we said there are more shoes to drop. And the lawyer went on to News Nation and said exactly that. Like, there's more shit's going to hit the fan. More people are going to get named. More fingers are going to get pointed, and more people are going to be brought into this deal. It's not going away anytime soon. Yeah. Hey, look, whoever's involved, burn it down. Whoever's involved, get them out. Yeah.
Burn it to the ground. Salt. Do like Carthage, man. Salt the field so nothing will ever grow again. Like, there's bad people there, and I'm going to keep being hard on this, because like there's people that we know from the board votes, and you can sit there and tell me, well, they only did it so they can advance their position. Well, that makes you a horrible human being. I'm sorry. Like, everyone there, and the board especially, who read all this stuff, turned a blind eye. Ari Emanuel praised him publicly when this deal went down less than 6 months ago. So I got nothing. And they knew it. They knew what they were getting into bed with. So, I mean, like, if WWE is fucked in all this situation, good. It's about time they reap what they sow. What they sow. No.
Oh, man. And lastly, Netflix chief content officer on Vince, and I quote, "He's gone." Bella Baharia, sorry, I don't mean to mess up her name, spoke to the press, and when asked about Vince's allegations, she bluntly stated, "He's gone. He's not there." So the Netflix deal remains unaffected at this time. I think that if this continues to get worse and current people are in on this, actually get publicly brought into the lawsuit and get publicly named and have to step down, I could see this Netflix deal going south in a hurry. There's no guarantees there. This could be a tough time.
don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. I mean, like they signed a deal,
Yeah,
so we don't know what the language of the contract states. They might have to just
shows
take it.
shows get canceled all the time,
They do,
and
but
they
Netflix is
could
different.
buy things out, and that is
They
true.
could.
Yeah,
They could.
yeah,
Netflix is a different beast. We don't know what the language of the contract states. But I mean, like if things don't get cleaned up over there, and it's so funny because I think that these companies are going to be harder on them than most wrestling fans are. Because most wrestling fans, not that's unfair. That's unfair. Most WWE fans are willing to forgive and forget and move on. When I don't
yeah,
think that's I don't think that's morally right. Like I'm having huge, I think I mentioned it last week. I'm having huge crisis of conscience with being a wrestling fan right now. I watched an hour of Dynamite this week and went to bed. Like that's really all the wrestling content that I've taken in. And it's kind of eating me up, man. Like just talking, like I've had conversations with people that we used to work with, and like they would stuff that would bother them. Like I'm like, how do you like the stuff that would bother you? I'm like, how do you watching this right now? And they're like, oh, I just watched the product. And I don't. And again, I
yeah,
can't pass judgment. It's not right to pass judgment on
yeah,
people, but for me, it's like I can't look at it without feeling disgusting, right?
yeah.
And I feel
Yeah.
disgusting when even thinking about it. So I don't think get rid of
I
everybody. If they purge all the
yeah,
Vince guys, I might actually watch again.
yeah. So I struggled with that too over the weekend, and I I ended up watching the Royal Rumble, but I was kind of like uncomfortable, and then I knew that the reason why I was watching it was so that way I can hit up the Patreon and do a recap, because that was one of the things I wanted to do this year, is just get more content and more stuff. And so and I have an easier way to do solo content. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch the Royal Rumble and I can do a quick recap of it. Well, I did like 35 minutes just talking to my phone because I went on a whole fucking rant about shitty Triple H is at that press conference. But
Oh my
so
god! What?
yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Can
It
we
was
talk about what an asshole that guy was on Twitter, posting pictures of him smiling and laughing and making a joke out of all this, and then getting put up there? And kudos to the wrestling media for not being complete and total
Yep.
asshats, except for Steve fucking Fell, which even he admitted that he was being a douche. Like, and for him to
Yeah.
sit there and tuck tail in front of everybody and act like a big freaking, oh my god, what an asshole. He is, honestly,
Yeah.
God, my least favorite human being in professional wrestling. What an embarrassment to the company. That guy.
JD, you know what he said about last week for the company? He said, "This has been an amazing week." I'm like, dude, like you're living under a fucking rock, or you got your head
What
buried into the sand. And I want, you know what? And I think JD, we need to do something, because
Please.
we've been tough on a lot of the people from the media. And there were 3 guys at that press conference that we've been real tough on this podcast, and we got to give them their kudos because they fucking deserve it. John Alba, I did a whole I did a whole thing on John Alba because of the whole WWE PR thing and tweeting about SmackDown. I didn't really care that he did it, but he went on a rant against me, so I did the same on my podcast. But you know what, John Alba, kudos you. He asked the best question of the weekend. Absolutely. Also, I want to give a kudos to Nick Hausman, who I think we've probably given the biggest beating to. He actually asked Cody Rhodes one of the questions. He actually sacrificed an opportunity to ask Triple H a question, and asked Cody Rhodes the question instead, because that was the only time he's going to get to be able to speak. So he did that, and I thought Cody Rhodes answered the question quite well, honestly. Cody Rhodes far more trained in media than Triple H, clearly. And Brandon Thurston, we actually love Brandon Thurston, so not him. There's another guy though. There's another guy named Seahawk who I don't follow that guy. He's kind of an influencer, kind of like a guy. He works for the Ringer. I think he used to work for the Torch. He also asked a pretty decent question, not as good as Alba or Hausman or Thurston, but I felt like he still did a pretty good job there. So kudos to those gentlemen. We've been really tough on some of those guys. So awesome work.
You know what though? I think being tough on those guys holds their feet to the fire and forces them into these positions to make them do the right thing. Because when given the opportunity in the past, they always haven't. So I think that, I'm not saying you specifically, but I think that the internet wrestling community, which takes a lot of flack from people like them specifically, held their feet to the fire for how they've acted in the past, and I think helped influence them to pushing the journalistic button. And they could say, well, I would have done that anyway, but you haven't proven to me that you have when given those opportunities before, but you did here in the most important story in the history of the business. So tip my cap to them on this one.
Yeah. And so part of my Royal Rumble rant, and I said just that, JD, I said, it is important to be tough on the media. because they have an important job in this, and
Mhm.
they need to ask important questions when these types of stories break. It's just as important to hold the media to the fire as it is to hold people in power accountable for
More
what they're
important.
doing, and that's the media's job. And so
Mhm.
they get the access that a lot of us don't get, that a lot of us will never get because of where we're at in our lives. JD, you got 3 jobs. You don't have time to be going around and doing all this stuff. You're not going to go work for a major website. Me, I'm in the military. I will have to ask for leave, and you guys will have to fly me to Hawaii, and it costs a lot of money to get me on a plane to go anywhere. So you got to put me up in like a 5-star hotel. You got to pay me tons of money to get me to go over there and do that stuff. So, and nobody's willing to do that. So, and I'm just not in the position to be able to do it, because look, I got a real ass job and a family, and I'm going to school. So we have these people that have been granted this access, and it's important for them to be taken seriously. There was another woman on there that she had the first opportunity to ask Triple H a question, and the first thing she fucking asked was about the Netflix deal. And I'm not going to mention her name because I've already mentioned it on Twitter. She's a disgrace, right? That was just a person that's looking for a job in WWE, despite the big story that just came out. That is a person that's want to go into the Lions Den over there, and I just don't understand it. Just completely disgraceful by her. But then you got 3 back-to-back questions that were absolutely legitimate. So when they suck, we should say it, and when they do good, we also should say it. I think that's appropriate, especially for 2 guys like JD and I who can be a bit harsh on folks. So good job to them. So guys, we have 25 people watching across 2 streams. I want to thank everybody for being here. That was 26 minutes on Vince. I don't want to mention that motherfucker's name the rest of this show. Let's have some fun. All 26, 25, however many of you guys are on there, could you do me a big favor if you can? Give a big thumbs up on this video that you're watching right now, either on the Voices of Wrestling stream or the Mike and JD show stream, because what that does is it sends a signal to everybody that's kind of scrolling around YouTube right now. It'll let them know that we're having a good time here today, and we're going to be enjoying our show. And then go over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. We have 2 episodes of our Sting's Greatest Rivalry series out right now. We covered Vader, we covered Cactus Jack, and coming up this weekend, JD and I are going to cover the Dangerous Alliance. I cannot wait for that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun as we get closer and closer to Sting's retirement match. Head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. Also, my Royal Rumble rant. I did breaking news on CM Punk's injury, did all kinds of stuff there. Let's go ahead and let's get to the chat, JD. We got a lot of people. We got Baby Huey. Baby Huey from 97.7 The Bone out of San Francisco. Or 107.7 The Bone. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've lived in that area. 107.7 The Bone, and Baby Huey says, "Go Niners!" Absolutely, sir. Respect. We're in the Super Bowl again this year. Let's get one. And then we got the letter A in the chat. It said, "A Bischoff is a carny and a grifter who will switch his colors like a lizard." Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
You got me on that one. And then David Hadley makes a very good point. Triple H doesn't have his head buried in the sand; it's up his ass. I think that's a solid point. Yeah, thank you, sir. Mm-hmm. That's a great correction for us. We deserve that. Mm-hmm. And then Nonzo, aka Tactical Playmaker. We think Nonzo. Tell me in the chat. You got a YouTube channel coming out here pretty soon, I believe. I think he's going to be doing some solo stuff here. But it says wrestling media has been operating unchecked for a long time. Well, look, it's because nobody's really ever taken this business seriously, and mainstream media never really wanted to cover it because they feel like that it's embarrassing. So really, we've only ever had Dave Meltzer and Wade Keller that actually do in-depth investigative reporting, right? We have other guys. We have Sean Ross Sapp, who's kind of like our Adam Schefter. And I think, and look, we can say whatever we want about him and some of his Twitter behavior, but he is like our Adam Schefter and Wojnarowski, where he's probably the guy that breaks the most stories. They're not very in-depth most of the time, but they're just like quick couple of sentence scoops. A lot of it revolving around free agency and things like that, backstage stories. But, we have Dave and Wade, and that's really been it for a long time. And so hopefully now some of these websites, now that they see that instead of being WWE PR, which is what we're seeing from Sports Illustrated, which is what we've been seeing from ESPN, this fucking idiot Mike Coppinger did it again. Completely avoiding the Vince story, just did a whole PR article written by AI, put his name on it, talking about the greatness of the Royal Rumble. So we can't get mainstream media to cover this stuff. So we need people like John Alba to step up and be better. We need people like Houseman to be better and to not pull the shit that he pulled on Chris Jericho, to actually do in-depth, like corroborated, checked source stories. We need these people to do that. They're the people. They're our voice for that stuff. We need them. We need them to be better.
There's an idiom that I like in this situation. It's who watches the watchman, right? We need people. We need the people. That's really about really holding the media to scrutiny, because they're very easy to let the media come out and become just a propaganda arm, right? We see it in banana republics all the time. So it's up to the people to hold the people who are supposed to hold the big people accountable. That we keep them accountable too. So never forget that phrase. Who watches the watchman?
Yeah, checks and balances. And like hold JD and I accountable too. If we say something out of line, tell us. If we say something that's wrong, look, trust me. I say shit that's wrong, and I get DMs all the time. Like, hey, you got this fact wrong. Hey, this was actually this. This match happened on this pay-per-view and not this. Like, and I accept that stuff because look, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here a lot of times. I have some notes, but it's difficult, right? Like, and so it's important to be corrected, and it's important to be accountable.
Have you seen my Twitter mentions this week? Like, I went viral. I went viral a couple of times. Oh, I don't know. I hit mute conversation when I got 2,000 retweets. I went, this isn't going to wind up good for me. So I just turned mute conversation, and there was just echoes. Like,
what did you say that got you 2,000? I
don't remember. I said something. I think it was something. I was bitching about people not holding him to the flame, like typical squawking. I think I took a pot. I think I took a pot shot at Triple H because that's what I do. And the Fed pillars didn't like it, so it happens.
Yeah. All right, and then King of the North, his weekly check-in on JD. He said, "Hey guys, just checking to make sure Mike and JD haven't lost their minds." No, I think I feel a lot better this week than I do last week.
Much.
And then we got a lot of people in the chat, and I will get back to the chat. Just lastly on the story, I'm gonna leave the whole story. So one of the things that I did whenever I covered the Royal Rumble is I took the lead of Joe and Rich, and I took the lead of Dave and Brian. Those are the guys when it comes to talking about wrestling and wrestling podcasts. Those are the four guys that I look up to the most. Mm-hmm. And I thought they did a very good job covering the Rumble, because what they did is they started with the story, right? And they started with the press conference and how awful that was. And they went in depth on the story and the updates that we had in the story. And then they covered the event separately. And that's what I did. I was like, I think we can do that. I think that's okay. Sometimes there's going to be awful things that happen in sports and in music and in movies. And you cover the story, and then you cover either the event or the art. You got to cover that separately, and try to be able to separate the two. If you're a professional, you should be able to do that, and that's what I tried to do over the weekend. So I hope you guys did get a chance to take a listen to it. Unless you were looking for someone to go and praise the Royal Rumble, because I did not. So there was not much to praise there. But we will move on from all of that nonsense. Let's talk some free agency news.
Yeah.
I have not wanted to talk about this person in a long time because I was sick of this woman. But Mercedes Moné, it appears to be, she's finally got a deal. This note comes from Fightful Select, and I guess it's co-written by Fightful, or co-broken by Fightful and Andrew Zarian. Andrew Zarian broke the story in GIF form. That's what he typically does. But
that's what he does.
Yeah, it says AEW founder Tony Khan fueled speculation on Wednesday when it was announced that he'd have an announcement on the February 7 episode.
As
of AEW
Tony
Dynamite.
Khan does. I have an announcement to make next week. That's what Tony.
Yes,
that's a Tony move.
Yep. Well, no one will confirm. It was implied that it was related to the impending appearance of Mercedes Moné in AEW. However, we're not told that her signing would be outright mentioned as a part of the rumored announcement. I don't think the announcement is Mercedes Moné, but Mercedes Moné is likely debuting in March after Revolution. It appears Andrew Zarian was on Twitter saying that she's actually got a contract and that she's coming in. So finally. Now, I still won't believe it until she shows up, but it looks like she's in AEW. Yeah.
Got to show up. That's big for AEW. The most important question I have is, are they going to get a new theme song for her, or is that god-awful New Japan song that Moné going to just come back? Because it's so bad. It sounds like Crisscross. It's so bad.
She licensed that music herself. Like, she paid to have that done. That's and I like it, if the song is good, that's a good move. Like, that's what Nick Nemeth did. Matt Cardona did that. like, because you can get downstate to make you
they'll
a
do
song
anything.
for like, they will. If you just give them like a Jack in the Box gift card, they'll, all right, let's get in the studio, let's do it. So, and they do pretty good. They do pretty good theme songs, like for wrestling themes. So they do Cody's theme, and so they own the rights to that music. They license it from the band. I think that's what Mercedes Moné did. So, I hope she doesn't come up with the theme song. I think that she is. You said this is a big deal, but last time we talked about her, we also talked about how she was not a big deal in New Japan, and that she did not move numbers, and that she ultimately didn't was, I don't want to say a bomb. I don't think a bomb is the correct, but she ended up getting hurt. She did one show that actually performed pretty well, but when they went right back to that town without her, they did just as well. So in San Jose. So it really depends on how they promote her, and if they promote her as if she's a big deal, she might be able to come in and move numbers. But if they don't, I think we're looking at a lot like nothing changes.
I think it's different. I don't think she moved a lot for New Japan, but also New Japan is not great at selling tickets, especially last year. This year they've been doing better selling tickets in the US.
Chicago. Yeah.
They're kicking ass here in Chicago, man. You put Moxley on top here, people are gonna go, oh, I'm gonna go. Like, that's just, we love good wrestling here, and we haven't had a show in a while, so I think we're a little hungry again. A non-WWE show, I should say. I think it's really gonna come down to, are they gonna treat her like a star? And if they treat her like a star for what they're paying her, they better treat her like a star. Like, and this is, you got to tell this Tony Khan, she picked us over them. Right?
Yeah.
You have to, now is the time you have to seize on that, right? You have, she's the biggest women's free agent star in the world. She is. You have to sit there and say, well, she chose us, and look what's going on over there. Like, you have to play this up like the biggest win that you have. You have to. And I think it could be a big deal. I don't think she's going to make huge numbers, but at the same time, they're struggling to sell, not in all markets, they're really struggling to sell tickets in some of these markets, and having her on, it can't hurt. They need something, and I think that's a good one. I think the shows have been better lately, right? They've been better than they were in the last couple of months, but it takes time. It takes time to sell tickets.
As our friend Suit Williams, who's actually in the chat tonight.
Suit's in the
welcome,
chat.
Welcome to the chat. Yeah, Suit's in the chat. Bang Bang Niner Gang, Suit. So as Suit Williams will like to say, Tony Khan is booking for the sickos these days. He's booking for guys like us that they just want to see cool shit. That, like, look, I don't know who the CMLL guys were, but I thought that was awesome. You know what I mean?
That
Like,
was fucking great. I saw that.
They're booking for dudes like us that just like to see like cool ass matches, and I like learning about new wrestlers that I've never heard of before. Like, some people get offended by that. I haven't been seeing this guy for 10 years. Why would I care about this guy? I'm like, I'm seeing this guy for the first time. He looks awesome. Let me learn about this guy. Like he attacked Moxley. Okay, next week maybe I get a vignette. Maybe I learn his backstory. Like, let me learn about all these guys. This is cool. Like, they're booking for us right now.
I agree. I'll say this. Mystico is 1,000 times cooler after kicking John Moxley in the face in AEW than he ever was in the WWE as Sin Cara. He's 100%. already cooler than he was over there. I'm super stoked to see like this. I think we might get it because Tony hasn't done like a true invasion angle. I think maybe we get an invasion angle with CMLL, and the BCC might pop into Arena Mexico because that's one of Brian's like itches that he needs to scratch. This could be a lot of fun. I'm real excited about what this could lead to.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that this big announcement is probably related to Forbidden Door, and doing a triple like Forbidden Door show, like New Japan, AEW, and CMLL all together, and then they're kind of introducing the CMLL stars on television, and I think they're slowly getting away from using the AAA stars. Yeah, I think it's time to move on from Commander. By the way, like, I know everybody, I like that guy, like he can do a couple cool moves. But in between those cool moves, he's not very good. I think it's probably time to just like, hey, go back to Conan, buddy, and come back in a year.
My Commander's signed to AEW. Commander is all elite.
Oh,
he's not signed.
I thought he was a AAA guy.
He is a AAA guy, but he is like Penta.
Oh, okay.
He got the graphic. Commander is all elite.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know that. Sorry, but
he's also like 22. He's a kid. Like, Commander. He's gonna be good. He's just really young. You know who's really good though? You know who's really good? Mascara Dorada.
Yeah,
new Mascara Dorada. That guy fucking rules, and I can't wait for you to see his stuff in the US, Mike. You're gonna love it. He's great.
I've actually seen some of Mascara Dorada, the new
Have
one.
you? Okay, cool.
Because Grand Metalik was Mascara Dorada before, right?
The
But now
original
he's just
Mascara Dorada,
but now he's just Metalik. So I've seen the new one. The guy I have not ever seen, and I don't want to try to pronounce his name, but it's the guy that's wrestling Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson next week. So so someone put his name in the chat. I cannot. Dude, I know, like, I can't, but I'm sorry. But that guy, I'm pretty interested in that guy.
I took Latin in high school. I didn't take Spanish. So yeah, Suit just put it in there. Mike, please pull it up.
Oh yeah, it's I'm actually pretty decent with pronouncing Spanish words. Hechiceto, that guy.
Hechiceto. I can't. I wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, I've never seen him work.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to watch him work.
Hechiceto.
Oh, thanks, King of the North. Hechiceto.
Yeah. Helping out the gringos.
Phonetic
Appreciate it,
spelling.
bud. Yeah, absolutely. But so I don't know if Bandito's a AAA guy, but I know that Roosh is going to CMLL. I know he's going to CMLL. Roosh is going to CMLL, right?
Back to
Phoenix,
CMLL.
Phoenix left AAA, and he said he's going to be a free agent. He might try to go back to CMLL. I think it's only a matter of time before Penta does the same, right? You would think that is, considering it.
Think.
I think that's the strategy: is get all of their luchadors to get away from AAA and then get over to CMLL, and then they can cut AAA out altogether. Oh, hold on. King of the North. Hold on. He's correct. He's not. I thought that Lucha Blog said that he was. Did I get that wrong? So King of the North is saying Roosh is absolutely not going back to CMLL. I thought that he said that. Okay, my bad.
I'm not. I don't know. I missed. I was kind of tuned out this week for a lot of stuff. I would like that if he did. I would love to see, because especially with the way TNA made a big deal out of their AAA relationship, which hasn't really gone anywhere as of yet. They made a real big deal about
JD. I'm going to correct you, JD, because Laredo Kid had 2 matches over the weekend and he lost both of them. So you could say the relationship has really
stronger than ever.
There.
So the relationship is as strong as it's ever been with TNA and AAA. Ain't nothing changed. That's an old Brace for Impact gag that you and I used to talk about, how Laredo Kid is like the best guy here and never wins. And then they brought him for one match in AEW, and he did more in AEW than he did the whole run in TNA. So, I do think you might be right. I do think they might be trying to get away from this. The problem is they really like Vikingo. Tony loves Vikingo, and I get it. Vikingo fucking rules, and he's the mega champion, which again doesn't mean as much as you might think it means in AAA, but whatever. I'm excited. If you're correct, and we do get I think that's good. I think it's a good guess too, that we would get a forbidden door between those 3 companies, and the AAA guys could take a vacation for a month. Like, I think it could be, it could be a lot of fun. Could be a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah. I think that would be an awesome show.
Okada, hold on. If they were to do that, if you are to do a forbidden door with with CMLL, New Japan, and AEW, you have to run it in a city with a heavy Mexican population. You have to. Yeah. Like, you have to run a town like a Houston or Chicago or something that has like strong. LA would be a great one. Some city with strong ties. We can't. This one can't run in like Seattle or something like that. And at the Seattle, I don't know. I apologize, but like, you just need to run a town that like has lucha ties. Like, be smart.
I got a great idea. Alamo Dome. I think that would be cool.
That would fucking rule.
They could probably do that. Yeah, they could do that. San Antonio would love that. All right, let's go to Okada. So he remains a free agent, but all signs are pointing to. Oh, why did I put AEW? All signs point to AEW. So he officially hired Barry Bloom as his agent. They were actually together at the TNA tapings. TNA fans, he's not going there. Don't do it. Don't start. Don't do it. Start with me. Don't. He is not going there. In fact, JD, did you catch any of Okada's return to TNA last week? Like, at all?
I just told you I was on break from watching wrestling this week. No, I did not.
Dude, he is the greatest professional wrestling legend of all time. You want to know what he did in this match?
No, tell me.
He not a goddamn thing. Hey, he got knocked off the apron a couple of times. He mixed it up with Moose a little bit because they do have a little bit of a history from the Ring of Honor days. So he mixed it up with Moose a little bit. He came in the end, hit a Rainmaker on Brian Myers, and then Alex Shelley hit his move and then pinned him, and then it was over. And it went like 13 minutes, and then he gave a speech afterwards. I was like, man, Okada did nothing. And I was like, and I'm not even mad because everybody else did all the work and they were great. And I'm like, at the end of it, I was like, I just respect Okada more. He's like, hey, look, if you're gonna make me go to TNA, he goes like, you make me go to TNA, I'm not doing anything. And he didn't.
Cash in a paycheck, man. Kazuchika Hogan strikes again.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, they wanted him to work a full match, and he said that doesn't work for me, brother.
It worked for me. He stroked his imaginary goatee and said that doesn't work for me, brother. Oh God.
But
so
AEW
bound. AEW bound.
Well,
right.
Well, Dave was reporting that the AEW offer is much higher at this point than WWE, and he said WWE sources said that they think that if he really wants to go to WWE, he just will for the price that they are giving him. So they're essentially just telling him to go to AEW, is what it sounds like to me.
They're giving him the Mercedes treatment, which
I
don't know. I mean, in all honesty, I didn't think I said this for the last month. I don't think WWE is a great fit for him. Like he's not Nakamura. And I don't think he can look at Nakamura's run and be like, yeah, man, that's what I want to do. Like, unless you want to retire. And I don't get the vibe that Okada wants to retire necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he wants to come here and work.
Yeah. I don't think the WWE fans would have embraced him all that much. And I have a little bit of evidence that suggests that, because the YouTube video from his TNA match last week was tripled by the Nick Nemeth match that Nick Nemeth had with Zachary Wentz last week. So, and like Okada was in there with Moose, the world heavyweight champion, but Nemeth's match was at like 400,000 views versus Okada's match was at like 150,000 views. Like it was like a stark difference. Like WWE fans, they don't really know him that well. They're probably not going to like. Eventually, they would embrace them because they're just very tribalistic. Like they're like, hey, you're part of the team now. We're going to get behind you. But they wouldn't have known him the way that they know like your typical WWE type of person. You know.
I remember when Nakamura showed up in NXT, he got a decent reaction for they had a little phone interview reveal when they first said Okada was going to wrestle Sami Zayn. That was pretty cool. And then by the end of that match, he was super over. But that was an AEW crowd basically at those old NXT shows, right? So it's different.
They were.
But it took him a while to kind of acclimate to WWE. And I don't think Nakamura's ever really quite acclimated to WWE. Right, like he's been good, but I mean, like when he came in, people thought he was going to be like a generational talent. Like this was like a massive signing when Nakamura signed. I remember telling my buddy Pete, I was like, "Dude, this guy is unbelievable. He's unreal. You're not gonna. It's gonna blow your mind when he comes here." And he's just been like an upper mid carder when he's been used, right? And it's just like, I thought you might have a perennial main eventer with Nakamura, and they just. And then maybe it's part of that's on Nakamura too, because I mean, like he certainly doesn't work like New Japan Nakamura. So I don't know if that's what Okada wants to do. You know, he seems like he wants to still be awesome and just build his brand in the US. And I think AEW would probably be a better fit for him because Okada works like, what's Okada do? Okada does like 60-minute or like 30-minute matches every time he wrestles. He could do that on SmackDown.
No,
you know, like he's
not getting that much time on pay. Yeah, he would rarely get that time on pay-per-view. Now, WWE has done a better job of not having as many matches on their pay-per-views, and their pay-per-views are much shorter. I mean, Royal Rumble was 4 matches, and of course, 2 of them were an hour long. So they have done a better job at that, but they have just so many people. It's going to be hard to kind of come in and supplant a lot of their talent. And look, AEW is deep as hell too. I think the perfect place for Okada to go to is right back to New Japan, but that's just not happening. He's not interested. So if he's going to come to the US and he wants to stake his claim here, I think AEW is the best fit for him. And also AEW schedule, they will let him go back to Japan often, and he'll probably be able to work some New Japan shows if New Japan even wants him back. I don't know.
Our secret friend just texted the two of us, and I found it on my Apple Watch. So Okada, I'm not no names. Okada has less value to WWE because they have to build them from the ground up to those fans for the most part. It's sound strategy to hold firm to an offer and simply try to drive his price up on Tony if he wants to come. If not, okay, no names. As a smart person though, I have no follow up on that.
Yeah, he shall remain nameless. So I do agree. I do agree with that. Will Ospreay, on the other hand, I think they would have taken to him rather quickly. Ospreay, I think that.
Oh, in a WWE, he'd have gotten over.
He has WWE.
Yeah,
he has WWE level like type charisma. He would have gotten over day one.
100%.
They would have treated him like he was Cody Rhodes. Like they probably would have, right?
100%.
So Okada would be a little bit different, and that's just their audience, and it's not a knock on the audience. They're just kind of, there's so much WWE to watch. They kind of just stick with that, right? And so, and I totally get it. So, all right.
Yeah.
So, so you watched a little bit of Dynamite. I had another thing on here about the CMLL invades AEW, but we already talked about that. All right, Wardlow. Yeah, Wardlow. Dude, it looked like he busted his knee last night in his match with Commander. And the Commander match wasn't very good. I was watching. I was like, why is this guy here? Like, what are we doing? I was like, why is this kid on TV? But he beat up on Commander, powerbombed him, and then while he was powerbombing him, it looked like he blew his knee out.
I'm gonna start calling our mystery. I'm gonna start calling our mystery friend the Red Mask, because Black Mask is dead. So I'm gonna call this guy the Red Mask from now on. Ospreay was the guy to roll out the red carpet for. He agrees with you.
Yeah.
So, as you were saying, Wardlow and Commander, a little sloppy. No, I didn't get to hear Brian and Dave because it took me forever to get through the Between the Street Sheets Patreon this week. So what was Brian and Dave saying about the knee? What was their vibe on it?
They didn't report an official thing, but they said that it very much looked like he was hurt, and that it seemed like, and people are saying that he's hurt, but there has been no diagnosis at the time that I'd listened. So I don't know if they've had any updates since then, but it doesn't sound good. I think, is it safe to say that Suit was at the show. So Suits was saying, I was live at the show, and Wardlow was really feeling it on the outside in the post match. So yeah, he definitely banged up his knee. Is it safe to say that so far this undisputed era, what was the faction's name?
Undisputed Kingdom. Pull up the next Suit tweet. Suit quote.
I will. Is it safe to say the Undisputed Kingdom is not going well so far?
Might be a little cursed. Might be. Ghost Max hanging out of the company. When your leader's on crutches still. Meltzer said they were worried it was a meniscus. Dude, a meniscus is nothing. You pull that. Like, meniscus. I was just going over this with one of my kids. Everyone I know every kid that I've worked with that's torn their meniscus has retorn their meniscus. Every single one of them. And a lot of times with the meniscus tear, you remove the meniscus completely, and you're back in like 6 weeks. Right, four if you're healthy. Like here, and be like, well, if you get the meniscus taken out, your knee is going to be sore. I got news for you. If you're a professional wrestler, your knees are sore, no matter what you do. And a meniscus repair, that's like 8 to 9 months in some cases. If you get that bucket handle tear specifically. So if it's a meniscus, they're going to pop that thing right out, and he'll be fine in a couple weeks. Meniscus tear is not a big deal.
Well, that's good, because that did look scary. John Muse says Undisputed was in trouble the minute they were revealed. Yeah, the whole thing just shit the bed, I thought, and they just never really recovered.
From the moment we saw the devil, and I said, "Well, let's see where this goes." It went nowhere. Better or worse than the Scorpion? Have we decided that the devil is better or worse than the Black Scorpion?
I think it's better than I think the overall production of it and the execution of it is much better than the Scorpion. I don't think it's ever going to be as I don't think it's ever going to be as endearing as the Scorpion, because the Scorpion to me right now is so bad it's good, and I like going back and watching some of that stuff because it just kind of reminds me of my child. Maybe somebody that was, because I was like 8 years old when the Scorpion happened. Maybe like an 8-year-old right now is probably watching that and we'll go watching this devil stuff, and then we'll go back later and it'll be endearing to them. I just don't see that. I think this is just like a storyline that they just bombed immediately. They're going to move on. They're going to do the Adam Cole MJF match eventually, and they're just going to move on, and hopefully they'll act like it never actually happened.
They can't do it. They can't just move on, because Adam Cole is walking to he's coming out in a wheelchair. He's on crutches. At least he got rid of the depression beard. And then Max is doing whatever the hell Max is doing right now. It's just, God, we got another 8 months of this at least. I just,
Suit says Undisputed King dead in the water. Leader's out, and the guy they feuded with is also out. Yeah. And then Io's back this week. He said their leader is hurt, and the antagonist is AWOL. You do the math. Yeah. So so not looking good. All right. So lastly, let's talk about this since we were our original podcast was Brace for Impact.
It was.
And 2 years ago, when we were on Brace for Impact, we covered a story where Mickie James got called up to the Royal Rumble as as the Impact Knockouts champion. And everybody made that a big deal. In hindsight, it wasn't really that big of a deal because Mickie James was not under contract to Impact. They were going to bring her anyway. They were just WWE was kind of being nice, like, look, we're going to bring her in. And Mickie wanted to come in as the Knockouts champion, and so they just allowed that. Brought her in. Mickie was in the Rumble for like 7 minutes, and they threw her out. Right. This go around, Jordynne Grace, who has never had any ties to WWE whatsoever, has never been on their TV, was never signed to that promotion. WWE made the call, I guess, the week prior to TNA, asked if they could use Jordynne Grace as the Knockouts champion. She made her appearance at number 5 in the Rumble. She came in immediately and started to have like a fight with Trinity, and they acknowledged that she had just beaten Trinity for the championship at Hard to Kill, and that Trinity was the former Knockouts champion. And then she was actually in there for like 15 minutes, got thrown out by Bianca Belair, one of their top stars, and was looked impressive. They praised her afterwards, and you know what? Look, this was probably not the week that you want to be associated with WWE if you're TNA. However, I could see that this has really helped Jordynne Grace's stock, with what she does on the outside of wrestling, with her different websites she has and her different services that she provides on the internet. I know her Twitter, all her Twitter, Instagram, all her followers went up. She got a bit more famous. She was in front of 50,000 people and millions worldwide. So she was pretty elated. What do you think about this WWE bringing in Jordynne Grace stuff?
Bad week.
Yeah.
Really, really bad week to do that because you kind of get lost a little bit in that. It's good for her because she's never had that like super mainstream wrestling exposure on either of the big companies, and she's awesome. So I mean, it's cool. It's cool she got her moment. I like in WWE fashion, she got tossed by Bianca to make sure you know where you are in the pecking order, which again, it's their turf. It's their turf. You get to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So does TNA really, I mean, like, does TNA get anything out of this? And do they need to at the end of the day? Like, is this going to help? Is this going to help ratings for Impact? Is this going to help buys for Impact? Probably not. But is it better for them to get featured on Peacock as just a commercial? Well, probably. It couldn't hurt.
I think the only thing they gained out of it is a little bit of brand awareness. And look, if they were going to send somebody over to WWE that can hold their own in the ring with the other WWE talents, she's actually much better than a lot of the people that were in that match. And honestly, like miles better. Like she got in there and it was like, oh wow, she is, like, I knew she was really impressive, but because the talent level in TNA is not that high, sometimes it seems like she has to work down to her talent. Like she's always like way levels above. She got in there in the WWE ring and she was levels above a lot of those people. Not Bianca, right? Not Bianca. Like, I'm not saying Bianca, like Bianca's tremendous, but like a lot of the other ones, there were some bland ass women in that match, and Jordynne Grace looked like a star in there. She's jacked and was just moving around. She's doing all the great power moves. I thought her and Natty looked great together. In fact, her and Natty are kind of like working an angle on Twitter. I don't know if anything will ever come of that. They say that the match is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen though.
They should now. WWE should do TNA the solid and send Natty down there to put Jordynne over. Yeah. We'll see if they actually do that. Triple H should do that right now with as part of the apology tour. Let's be frank. The WWE women's division is vastly overrated, and I think that Jordynne's presence proves it, right? Because she's only quote unquote been in TNA the last 5 years, and she can work circles around the vast majority of that roster. And I don't think I'm being crazy when I say something like that. I think she exposed them for that whole mystique of needing NXT to be good is bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Like if you it's just a place to tear your ACL when you're doing stupid drills. Like, I think that Jordynne proved that it's not necessary. She could walk into Raw tomorrow and be one of, if not the best woman on the roster. So, kudos to her. She's awesome. And I'm glad that people are talking about Jordynne Grace. That's the most important thing. Like, she does TNA, like you and I always, that was our big moniker with Brace for Impact, as we talk about the show that nobody else cares about. And it's nice that people are acknowledging someone that we know has been good for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. I thought she served herself very well. Now, what is TNA ultimately going to get out of it? I think you hit the nail on the head. It was a nice commercial for the TNA product. Sometimes when you buy commercials on Raw, sometimes it gets people to watch your show, and sometimes it just doesn't. And so, and we will see. Unfortunately for them, it's been like it's been a negative for them for a long time is they're on Access TV. It's like, what are you going to do? Are they going to get more app subscriptions? I don't know. I think if Natty came over and they did like at an Impact Plus show, I think Natty could probably bring over some subs,
Maybe.
just for the night, $10. Like Natty could probably bring over some, some of her fans, for $10.
Does Natty really have fans? Like, does Natty?
Natty's been on television for 20 years, and she is famous. Is she a draw? I don't know. She's never been out of the system, so we don't have any evidence that that's true. But we don't have any evidence that it isn't true.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's not like she does anything when she's there. Like, she's never mattered in the system. Like, people who are in the system that matter, you can argue for. Like, if Natty goes to wrestle Jordynne, what's the difference than if she were to get released and come in? Like when I don't think she's got as big a following as Trinity had. And Trinity was a nice little pickup, but it wasn't like
I think it depends on the situation, right? Trinity left with Sasha, and that was a huge story.
That's
true. She kind of walked, she walked out. And so when she came to TNA, that was like a redemption story. If WWE sent Natty and they promoted it on their social media, I think people would want to see that just because of the situation. Now, if Natty were to get released and then she came over, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. But if she went over there as a WWE star onto TNA television, I think that there would be a little bit of a bump, but we're not talking like a significant bump like if Bianca were to go over. Now, if Bianca goes over, they're like TNA is making some money off that deal. But Natty, you're probably looking at some subs, like not many, but some.
How many Wrestle Universe subs were picked up when Nakamura came to wrestle Okada?
Last I checked, it was 975. I'll have to double check that.
So
I'm kidding. I have no idea. I'm kidding. I don't have access to those
you said that with such authority and so on the cuff that I 100% believed you. I thought, oh, Mike sniffed me out. This is impressive. You totally,
JD.
Totally
how would I
don't
even
know.
That?
I thought I was asking a rhetorical question and you had an answer for me. So I was like, holy shit. No, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't think that Nakamura, who's a much bigger deal in the WWE environment than Natty, didn't have a whole lot. Like, it was cool, but it was guys like us, right? It was people that said, ooh, Nakamura Muda. Like, I don't think that, because WWE, here's the truth. Most WWE fans just watch WWE and don't want to be bothered by other wrestling because they think it's beneath them. I pick on our buddy Scott, but he would probably watch TNA if Natty came over, but the vast majority of them probably not.
Dude, our buddy Scott thinks Top Dollar is, and I quote, cooking in TNA. Top Dollar.
Did he say that? I left the chat. Did he say that in the chat?
$1 general. I don't know if he said cooking, but I've been holding on to that joke for a little bit. But but no, he does like Dollar General though. He does like him. So and
he's like, how can you hate this guy?
Yeah,
because how can you hate this guy? I'm like, because he fucking sucks. That's why I hate him. Like, it's terrible.
He's a bit of a douche nozzle, right? Yeah, but that's our buddy Scott. I
love that guy.
He's very much a football fan. Like just supporting his team. Doesn't matter what they do. He just supports his team.
Got to support the team.
Sue Williams asks, is Natty drawing Ash by Elegance numbers? Well, Ash by Elegance hasn't had a match yet, so we'll see if she's a draw. I doubt it, but you know what? I would say Natty is as far as like Natty versus Dana Brooke, I would say Natty is above Dana Brooke, but not that far.
I would agree with that.
But Natty, she's a heart, and she's just been around for a long time. And just has like that long time, And I didn't think that Nemeth would be a big deal when he came over to TNA, but he was the world champion at one point, like in 2012 or whatever it was, when he beat Alberto. And he's come over to TNA, and Orlando looked good. The crowd looked good. I watched him at TNA tonight, but the only numbers I get from him for what he's doing, because Access, you can't really count their ratings because nobody has the channel, but the YouTube numbers that he's drawing are like in the millions. It's insane.
Yeah.
So
kudos to Nick Nemeth. I never thought that.
Yeah, versus what Steve Macklin's doing, who I think Steve Macklin's world's better than Nick Nemeth. I'm not even kidding. They were in the ring together, cutting a promo on each other. Macklin blew that boy out of the water. Like, it was like Macklin looked like the bigger star in the ring against Nemeth, and he looked like a more believable badass than Nemeth.
Well, that's because he is. But here's the thing, Macklin is low key one of like the coolest guys in pro wrestling that people don't talk about. Like, not enough people, and it's because he's in TNA, so he gets ignored, much like Jordynne, right? But I mean, because he was in that system for years, and he got saddled with that dumbass Sons of Anarchy gimmick, and then he kind of got shit on for other people's dumb mistakes, and now he's been great in TNA. He's been great. So I mean, like, it does. I think he sees Nemeth as a guy who got handed everything that he wanted and never had opportunity for. So I'm sure that provides a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So I mean, like, I'm not surprised at all to hear that. I would much rather watch Steve Macklin than Nick Nemeth.
You haven't been watching TNA, but that's exactly the storyline that they're telling. that was basically the promo. Like, and he's like, you're just here, like you're coming up here and you're just here to take. You're here to take everything that I've been here earning, and you're just gonna come in and then you're gonna leave again. And I was like, wow, this brother's telling the truth in this promo. It was good.
Tell me when I'm telling lies, as a man once said.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm glad they did that, because that's the story they should be telling. Yeah. That's the story they should be telling. I like it. I'm a fan. Actually, you've made me more intrigued to watch just based on that right there.
Yeah, and Nemeth ended up missing a taping because he had to go to Puerto Rico. He'd already had it booked, and so TNA smartly sent Macklin to Puerto Rico to go beat him down in his match in Puerto Rico. I thought that was pretty good. So we're gonna get that footage.
Scott's not a dumb man. Scott's not stupid. Like, he's not stupid. Yeah. And Macklin got a Puerto Rican vacation. It's beautiful in Puerto Rico this time of year. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Hey, before we go, would you like to gloat about CM Punk being hurt, or how we just have not talked about it? I did a breaking news earlier this week, so
I'm not gonna gloat about someone who was one of my favorite professional wrestlers for a year being hurt. I will say, I told you so.
Yeah.
That's not gloating. I'm not happy. I'm not happy that the man got hurt. I told Andy that he got hurt, and Andy was super bummed because it's still one of his favorite guys. Like, it sucks, but I mean, I'm sorry. I only said it because that's what's happened the last 2 years. Like, the man, I heard Bix, kudos to Bix and Chris Zellner, because they put it right. When you're an older professional wrestler, it helps to be a good athlete. And Punk got good because he has this sheer willpower, right? He got good because he willed himself to be good, but you can't will yourself to be a good athlete, right? Especially when you get older, because father time comes for us all. And if you're a really good athlete, you can get away with it. I did 15 consecutive front handsprings at practice the other day. I was very proud of myself. I am a good athlete, but I was sore as hell the next morning. Father time comes for us all. It happens.
So I'm going to be 41 in a couple months, and my daughter, she's in gymnastics, and so she's practicing handstands and doing some of her forward rolls and backward rolls and stuff like that, and she's doing cartwheels. And I was like, can you do a round off? Because they showed you how to do a round off yet? And she's like, no, Daddy, what's a round off? And the old man can still pull off a round off. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what a round off, it's basically a cartwheel, but you kind of spin while you're doing the cartwheel, and like you plant your feet, and then you can do a backward roll or even a backflip. If I could never do the actual backflip. I can do it, but yeah, I showed her how to do that. I almost dislocated my hip, but I could still do it.
Yeah, we start every practice off with like a gymnastics inspired warm up, and I try to go through because I lead the warm up. So I try to show the kids that the old man still got it. I'll be 44 next Sunday. I'm freaking old. So like the fact that I can still do cartwheels and round offs, and I can knock out a bunch of front handsprings. The little kids think, when I go to little kids practice, I think that's cool that the coach can still do that. So like, yeah, I mean, but it helps to be athletic when you get older. Like, if you're not a great traditional athlete, it can kind of beat you up a little bit doing those things. So I feel for Punk. I really do. Because he's like, it's just like I think about he's probably missed years off his career of his comeback. He only came back. He did his comeback in 2021, 2.5 years ago, and he's been hurt 4 times.
Yeah, because he had the foot injury, and then he had the brawl out injury. That was a tricep during brawl out, right?
Yeah.
And then he came back and he had the fight with Jack Perry, but wasn't he hurt again at All In?
No, I don't think he was hurt. So this would be 3 times.
No?
He might have been hurt,
3
but he sat out for a while. He looked a bit softer in WWE than he looked in AEW, because WWE you got to have a bigger body. In AEW you can get away with just being lean and good shape. So I think he kind of tried to bulk up a little bit on his WWE.
Well, he's over there in Orlando, like lifting heavy to impress those NXT bunnies. You see all those pictures he's posting.
NXT bunnies. That is going to become show lexicon from now on. That's exactly what it is. I never saw. I mean, I know a dude trying to look cool for girls when I see it, and that's
hello.
That was
hello, fellow kids.
Sometimes the old CM Punk creeps back in, and that was the old CM Punk creeping back in those pictures. So, no, I feel bad for the guy because he's gonna have to have another. He's gonna have to have another tricep repair, and that's kind of what drove him mad last time. So hopefully he's not super isolated from WWE, because that man stewing in his thoughts is a bad place to be, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, actually.
Yeah, you know what? And I think Ibu of Wrestle Purist said that he's probably going to be spending more time in Orlando. I think he will, because that's where the rehab center, for his injury is going to be. But
makes sense.
But he, his dream is to kind of do what Shawn Michaels is doing, and I think he'll probably go there and try to learn what some of Shawn Michaels does over there, like booking the shows and producing. And I think that's kind of always been what he's been wanting to do anyway. So probably get more time to be able to do stuff like that.
I'm sure that'll go great.
Yeah, he was an underrated announcer when he got hurt in WWE before, and they actually put him on the Raw announce team for a while. You remember that?
Yeah.
I thought he was really good.
Yeah, the pre-Nexus days. I wasn't watching at the time, but I went back and checked some of the stuff. He's a professional commentator right now for MMA, and he's pretty decent at that.
Yeah.
Like, he's got chops, he's got charisma. You cannot discredit the man's charisma or personality, of which he is the cult of. Like, so yeah, I mean, like, I'm not surprised at. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Like, I'm not surprised at all to hear that's working. I mean, maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll make him a commentator on NXT or something like that. Like, all I know is you got to keep that guy active and invested in something, or else he is a guy whose brain can betray him. So protect yourself from that.
Yeah, and we won't get too much into the WrestleMania stuff, but now because he's out, he is out of the match with Seth, so they're looking for an opponent for Seth. I am voting for Gunther. I think that's the guy. Like, they've been getting behind him, but he's been more upper mid card for a while. I think it's time to get him in that main event picture with guys like Seth. I think that needs to happen. But knowing WWE, they'll probably do Seth versus Drew versus Sheamus versus Gunther versus, bearing Top Dollar back and throw him into the match. They'll probably do something like that. So something stupid is, I think, what they'll end up doing. But I just want to put this out there in the ether that I want Seth versus Gunther at WrestleMania. That's what I want.
I don't care. I'm not watching the show. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah. But hey, guys, thank you guys for being here. Thanks everybody in the chat, everybody watching on the Voices of Wrestling YouTube channel and the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. If you could do me a big favor and give me a thumbs up, throw down a comment, and make sure you're a subscriber to this channel, I would greatly appreciate it. That really does help us, and it helps us grow our network, and it helps us grow our Patreon community. And if you want to be a part of our Patreon community, head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. We're dropping content all the time, dude. I've been working like crazy. JD's been out for a little bit because, like I said, JD's got, he's a coach, he's a school teacher, he's a writer, he's a dad, he's also getting his master's. Well, I only have the one job, and I'm going to school, so I've been doing a little bit of extra podcasting lately. So I've been dropping a lot of content there on the Patreon, and I will have a full TNA Impact review coming up this weekend. I watched some of the show tonight. I will finish it later tonight and probably have a review out on Saturday for the Patreon members. And then I'll end up releasing it on the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel at a later date because I record it live to YouTube. So, but if you want to join me on the chat whenever I'm doing my Impact podcast, I will send that information out. It'll go straight to Patreon. Patreon members get to watch it or get to be there live with me and get to, collaborate. So I appreciate everybody being here. guys and guys in the chat, thank you guys for being here. You really help the show. You really do. You really do help the show. I really do greatly appreciate it. So, and until next week, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I